Howdy, folks, and welcome to another edition of Clary's Corner. Today's opening statement is to Aggie Football Nation. You are about to experience a golden age of Texas A&M football. Jimbo Fisher has proven in his 3 years that he's building a different kind of team. Gone are the November woes, gone are all the close losses, and gone are the teams that so often wilt down the stretch in big games. Jimbo Fisher is building a powerhouse, and we got a taste of that in 2020. Now, to the fans, I've seen a lot on Twitter about, oh, we should have made the playoff. Oh, they got it wrong. Oh, we got screwed. Oh, look, we lost to Alabama by the same margin as Ohio State did. We could have been in the national championship. Knock that off. Stop that. That does nothing for us. Focus on the task at hand, which is building on the incredible momentum of the 2020 season. This team is on the verge of doing great things. You look at the offensive line, which I thought was the unsung hero of the 2020 season. We will have to replace 4 of the 5 starters, but what has Jimbo done? For 4 years, he's targeted the trenches in every recruiting class. The wide receiver core, I thought, was the weakness of the team. Well, guess what? You got Caleb Chapman will be back, as well as 3 or 4 other highly touted recruits that we will see help the receiving core. This is happening. We're on the precipice of something very special with Aggie football. A&M fans have suffered for a long time through brutal Novembers, a lot of wasted seasons, inexplicable coaching decisions. It's different now. You have to stay the course, focus on the task at hand. Don't worry about the playoff committee. Don't worry about what's going on in Austin. Stay the course and enjoy the ride.
Heath Clary. Heath did something no man had ever done before. Walk into the coach of the college baseball team and say, Coach, can I go wherever you guys go? Travel some, be around the entire team and then document it all. Clubhouse, dugout.
But it was a great team with a lot of talent, and like I said, I think all those guys will play in the big leagues pretty soon. All right, folks, today's guest on Clary's Corner is a friend of mine who's been very important in my development. It's Gabe Bock at TexAgs.com. How's it going, Gabe?
Man, it is going great. Clary's Corner. This is fun. So what are we doing here? Doing a little YouTube show?
Yeah, just a little YouTube show I started where I'm going to be bringing on guests that I've met over my time.
Very good. I saw Deloach. That was good. That was good stuff with Deloach. That's a. How long have you been? Was Deloach your first one? Or?
Yeah, he was the first one. We got into some good topics.
No, that was really good. Yeah, the art of hitting and what goes inside your mind when you're struggling versus when it's going well. I enjoyed it, man. This is fun. Except I don't know about the burnt orange wall in the background, but other than that, we'll be all right.
Yeah, my high school colors were orange and black. So.
Okay.
But so, Gabe, do you actually remember when we met for the first time? I think it was my freshman year in Olson Field. We would see each other in the press box.
My first memory was the TCU Super Regional, but I could be wrong about that. Maybe it was. I wanted to say it was the 2016 Super Regional TCU with that great 2016 team that fell just one game short of Omaha. But there might have been a regular season game in there prior to that. I know we talked about you starting to work for us, and doing some stuff. I believe that TCU weekend, if I'm not mistaken. How close to correct am I?
Yeah, so that's the first time that we really talked for an extended period of time. And so, that was very big to my development, get a bigger audience over at TexAgs.com. So, happy that you did that.
Well, you did a great job for us. And see, even if I wasn't 100% right in my line of work, as long as I think I'm right and I'm like 87% right and it's a good story, we're good.
Yeah.
People just want to be No, I'm just kidding. You want to get it right. But, it was awesome having you. You definitely added a ton to the product. All the feature stories you did for TexAgs, and obviously that lent itself to you spending the the season with Aggie baseball and then writing that great book that I know many Aggies have checked out. There were outstanding stocking stuffers here this Christmas for sure.
Yes, definitely. But today I wanted to give you a chance to put your football analyst hat on. I know
Right.
you host a 3-hour radio show pretty much every day, but you don't get to do a lot of analysis. I think you're mostly the host, so I was hoping that you could do that today. Does that sound good?
Let's do it, man. What a fun storyline Aggie football was this year. And then you start thinking about what is to come with this team, what Jimbo's building, what recruiting's doing, the way this thing closed. Absolutely, 100%, without a doubt, A&M was one of the 3 best teams in college football this year. You can make a case for 2. I'm not ticked off if you say 4, but I am ticked off if you say outside the top 4. And I think A&M validated itself in the Orange Bowl. Then you see what happened behind it or in front of it, however you want to look at it. And without question, A&M was one of the 3 best teams this year. But I don't take that just uber ticked off approach personally. I have no problem if the Aggies feel that way. I kind of do too. I just don't voice it as much as others simply because I'm sitting back and enjoying life, Heath.
Right.
I'm enjoying what is being built across the street from where we work every single day. I feel like we got an opportunity to kind of preside over what is about to be the golden era of Aggie football. I mean, we have no say in it, but we get to talk about it every single day. And outside looking in, see what they're building over there. It's fascinating to watch. It's they're recruiting unlike any point in Texas A&M history. There were 2-3 years that RC had it rolling. There were 2, 3, 4 years. Jackie had it rolling. Emory Ballard had it really rolling, about 74, 75 in there. And he was recruiting very early in his tenure. Bryant in the 50s. This is a lot like that, but I think it even eclipses that. You feel like now A&M stars are aligned, the leadership's lined up, and they've got more financial wherewithal to make sure that this coach gets everything he wants, unlike maybe previous coaches where the facilities weren't quite there in past eras, where the assistant coaching salary, the budget wasn't quite up to snuff, so you'd lose great assistants constantly in the 80s and 90s. It's different now, man. You can afford to pay Mike Elko what it takes to keep him around here at least 4 years. I mean, it's pretty fascinating to watch. It's a good topic because anybody who wears the maroon and white loud and proud and loves Texas A&M, they can sense it coming. And that is Jimbo building toward national championship level success.
Right. Now you hit a lot of the topics that I was gonna ask you about, but
dive into them, man. Let's do it.
But you've been covering Aggie football for over a decade, right?
Yeah.
And other than
17 seasons.
Okay. So other than possibly the 2012 season, the 2020 season has to be the most successful that you've seen firsthand, right?
Oh, without a doubt. Since I started covering the team in 2004, they made a Cotton Bowl in 2004, but that was a 7-4 team. The 2010 season, A&M went to the Cotton Bowl. That they had won 6 straight games in 2010. That was a really neat story, sort of a real quick rebirth of the Wrecking Crew for about 4, 5, 6 games. Yeah. Von Miller at play there for sure. 2010 was really fun. Johnny in that year and the shock factor of this freshman coming on the scene, bursting on the scene. In year 1 in the SEC, you finished 5th in the country. First time since 56 when Paul Bear Bryant was your head coach. You finished with 11 wins that year. You had a Heisman Trophy winner to boot. That was as fun as covering sports could possibly be, covering one particular team. It was incredible.
Yeah.
This team here, though, this A&M team in 2020 was better than that team, in my opinion. Now, a lot can be covered up when your quarterback's incredible. Both O-lines were great. The running back situation, better on this team. Passing game, you had Swope and Evans. They had the sexy factor, right? That 2020 had this incredible quarterback, and you couldn't tackle him, and he like a jitterbug, and then he could throw it, he could run it. He had all that spark and flash and pizzazz. Then maybe Mon doesn't have a lot of that stuff. Mon puts it in harm's way a little less, and he can also be. I mean, he's a tough sucker. Now, Kellen Mond missed one play that mattered in his entire career. You talk about a guy that got hit a lot too, running the football downfield, got popped a lot, would hang in there and throw it knowing he was about to take a lick. One play, and that was on the cramp against Clemson in 2018. Nick Starkel with a strip sack the very next play. Mon was back the next series, and he didn't miss another play that mattered in his Texas A&M career the last 3 years under Jimbo Fisher. So toughness of Kellen Mond. A&M did not I think there were a lot of non-believers with A&M in the national media because the national media has got to skip around so much, and they're looking at box scores and highlights. And when you're looking at highlights outside a couple deep balls to Caleb Chapman and then he gets hurt, that sexy factor wasn't necessarily there. That doesn't mean A&M wasn't dominant, though, Heath. A&M was a totally dominant football team. That's why they won 8 straight games. That's why they won their last 7 games by double digits. The choke you out factor, the break your will factor, this team had that. It was dominant on defense, the number 9 ranked defense in all of college football, number 1 in the SEC in total defense, number 2 against the run. The last time A&M finished inside of 10th, so 1 through 9 in total defense, was 1995. But that's when they played one team that was any good back in the old Southwest Conference days. Now, that was an elite wrecking crew defense, don't get me wrong. But you're also not doing it against the likes of Kyle Trask and Mac Jones and Sam Howell. A&M went in there, year 3 of Jimbo. Mike Elko withstood Sam Howell, Kyle Trask with all of his weapons, and, of course, Mac Jones when he had Waddle, and that was in Tuscaloosa in the second week of the year. Facing that level of offense and still finishing with one of the 10 best defenses and maybe, probably, and the stats back it up, the best defense in the SEC this year, that's dominant. But I think there's too much lazy factor, Heath, that says, well, they don't fling it around. So even when A&M beats Florida, up until the point that Florida loses to LSU and then Bama and then OU, what was the narrative? Well, I don't care. Florida's still better eye test. Right. Why are they better on the eye test? Well, they flinging around with that quarterback. Well, they can't run it at all. They had no 100-yard rusher all season. They can't stop the run or stop the pass to save their life. This isn't 4 years ago Florida. This isn't DBU and dudes off the edge getting to the quarterback. That was a shell of itself, and their defense coordinator got rung up because of it. So A&M was a totally dominant team, the best team that I've covered so far. But I think 21's got a chance to be right there, and then they're really building it to where you're rolling in so much depth. If they hit at quarterback, and I think they're going to, if they hit at quarterback, 21 could be every bit as good, challenging right up there near the top, staying as a relevant part of the conversation as the calendar flips to the last few weeks of the season down the stretch. And then beyond that, no telling what this guy's going to do. I think Jimbo's going to win a national championship at A&M.
Now, the type of team that you discussed right there, right? The gritty, the tough. A&M fans haven't always seen that out of their teams, especially since I've been alive. A&M fans, and don't you think that I thought the North Carolina game was really emblematic of the change? It didn't go well early.
No doubt.
It didn't go well early. A&M fans all know about past teams, that the kind of November woes. But in Jimbo's tenure, they find a way to win those games more often than not. So, why do you think that a Jimbo Fisher coach team has been able to do that? What is it about his teams that have been so great?
Yeah, he does. He's got a knack for getting his guys to make the right plays at the right time to playing winning football games. You really saw it right after Florida scores to take a 10-point lead late third quarter. And then A&M got a penalty late in that drive. Then Leon got beat, and I think he might have got a post-play penalty in there. And then A&M got a penalty on the ensuing kickoff. And then they had to burn a timeout after a kickoff to avoid a play clock violation. It was just like, man, what in the heck's going on from an organizational standpoint? Yep. Remember that? And all of a sudden, they call that timeout, and they come out of it, and what do? You remember?
Just run the ball, right? Run the ball. Spiller. And they established an identity that day that this is who we are. We're a tough-minded bunch of suckers, and we're down 10 right now, but we think our offensive line's better than maybe the public knows yet, and they'll come to find out, and we did.
And we think this running back's pretty dang good. We think he's special. We think he's one of the 5 or 6 best in the country already, even though it's early in his second year. And we think we can lightning you with Anias, which then begat A-Chain later in the season. And now you got 3 of these guys that you moved 2 of them around. You got 28. He's willing to play fullback at times. We saw that, and which allows you to keep nickel personnel on defense because you don't sub. I mean, the things they're doing right now, and Jimbo's having so much fun with it. Wait till he gets a deep threat. Wait till he develops Demas and gets a healthy Chapman. Wait till Baylor Cup finally comes back and steps on the field, and you get 2 tight ends out there that can really play. And then the Miami Central duo that have cold speed, Shadrack Banks, where you can play him in 5 different positions. So it's going to be pretty fascinating to watch. But I think they established it there. They got some tough situations. Remember Auburn? That was kind of a sloppy game too. And then you're down late and then choked them out with, I think, plus 21 point fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken, 24-3 in the fourth quarter. And then you give up the bomb against Carolina in the Orange Bowl, 75 yards. You're down, but they were undeterred. They're tough-minded. They stuck with what they knew worked because it worked against everybody in the SEC this season. They're really, really tough on the defensive line. They were special on the offensive line this year. Now, that's going to be one of the biggest question marks because you got to your best one comes back in Kenyon Green, but you got to replace 4 of them. That's going to be very difficult to do. So there's certainly questions. There's not a team in the country, even Bama. They're looking – the quarterback's got to go validate it. They give you 5 stars, but you still got to validate it, and that's Bryce Young. They've got to figure out who's going to replace Najee Harris, even though Robinson's really good and they always recruit Jason McClellan. But and then they lost. Probably we're going to look back after this upcoming draft and say 4 first-round receivers in the last 2 years at Bama. So who's that next wave? I think the Canadian kid Mechie's really good. Is he first-round good? I don't know. Xavier Williams, is he first-round good? I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, they recruit and develop like crazy. Is Bill O'Brien finally the straw that breaks the camel's back offensively, and they're just not as good as they've been the last 6 years? I don't know. Maybe. I don't like Bill O'Brien. I think that's a bad hire. But with Saban, everything he touches turns to gold. They got question marks. A&M certainly got some question marks too. But that tough-mindedness, that all of that kind of I think the genesis of that was COVID. And a lot of dudes had that team had a lot of really, really challenging and difficult conversations this summer. And some guys opted out and decided they didn't want to be a part of this. But when that happened, then Buddy Johnson tweets, I'm 1,000% in. And some people wonder what Kellen was going to do after Jamal. Well, he stayed, and he was totally and completely locked in. And you saw the fruits of that on offense with Kellen Mond, and you saw what number 1 was able to do defensively. Those were the heart and soul pieces. And then everybody else rallied around them. It was a total team, a team built on toughness, a team built in the trenches, and a dominant football team in its own unique way.
Right. Let's talk about the offensive line from 2020. I thought they were the unsung heroes actually of the season. It was just crazy to me. No matter what team they played, no matter if a blitz was coming, they just had a clean pocket almost every time that the quarterback dropped back. Did you see the same thing? And how do you? I think 6 sacks all year.
Yeah, I actually have a couple of numbers here I think might surprise you. All right, I'm gonna throw. Okay. See, this is what my notes look like as the season goes along. Right, a lot of chicken scratch. As you know, I'm left-handed. So I'm not known for my penmanship. but do you want to take a guess? Come on here, I'm gonna throw it right back on the host. Okay. Do you want to take a guess of how many combined starts the last year's offensive line had in their career? So 2 years with Kenyon. And how, 3.5 years with Dan Moore, 3.5 years with Carson. Just take a little guess of how many starts. Like a good, experienced offensive line probably has 75, 80, 90 career starts going into that last year.
How about 25?
How many?
25.
No. I'm talking about, well, that's a good guess going into this year. Right? Kenyon really nobody else.
Oh no, I mean I would guess it's more, but I thought it was like crazy low or something.
No. 157 starts that group made total.
Are you serious?
Carson Green made 40 starts in his career. Dan Moore 37, Jared Hawker 33, and Ryan McCollum 24. And Kenyon Green to this point has made 23 starts, 13 his freshman year and the 10-game season this year. 157 total. You're exiting 134 starts. So going into those four guys' senior years, you factor out Carson Green had 30, Dan Moore 27, Hocker 23, and McCollum 14. When you've started that many football games and you've had that much experience, and a lot of those guys have been together for that long, and you factor and you really started thinking, and I didn't think they were that good either going into this year. I was like, I felt Kenyon was going to take the next step. I thought Dan Moore took a major step back at left tackle his junior year. When you factor in Carson Green committed A&M over who? SMU. Dan Moore probably going to Okie State. Jared Hocker probably going to a Kansas or a Tech. Ryan McCollum, Okie State, Tech, something like that. It wasn't a highly recruited group. It had been around a while, and it had very up and down success. So I don't think it would have been very – I don't think you going into this last year, you didn't have a whole lot of people that were too bullish on this offensive line. Right. But they played a ton of football. And now looking back on it, where they had this great year and arguably the best offensive line for a single season in college football this year. Bama's, I get they won a Joe Moore Award. Bama's incredibly gifted, unbelievably talented. You can't deny that. But 1A, 1B, season to taste. Notre Dame's in there as a third, but I think there's a little gap. 1A, 1B, Alabama and Texas A&M. So all of a sudden they became one of the two best offensive lines in college football this year. It's spectacular what they did. And they went into the last year, give it up. What they give up for the year in sacks allowed? I mean, sacks allowed, they gave up 7 total.
Oh, 7. I thought it was
they
6.
had 4 on the season. Yeah, 7 total and 4 on the year going into that last game.
Right.
So, but then when you look back on the season or as the year unfolded, you realize, man, this offensive line's way better than I thought they would be. Right. And then you learn, and Carson Green was pretty forthcoming, that he had been playing a year and a half with a broken wrist. They had it taped up for every game so that it wasn't very noticeable, so that it didn't get identified by the opponent as much. And he just kind of but if you're going up against the edge guys he's got to go up against, and you're in the trenches in this league, and you're dealing with a broken wrist that's a secret, that's a hard thing to overcome. Well, he had off-season surgery. He had it before and it didn't go well. He had off-season surgery, got that fixed. Now he was a healthy guy. So all those starts and the health, Dan Moore was dealing with an injury that he said he didn't want to talk about it, but he was banged up his junior year. So now he's healthy. Ryan McCollum, we know about the massive back injury, so he couldn't get on the field his junior year. They went with Colton Prater, who had to play hurt the entire season, and he wasn't Eric McCoy, right? So they took a big step. And then Hawker all these guys have been banged up. So you get them all healthy, you get all that experience. There's nothing that this 2020 group, defensive line group in the SEC was going to throw at them that they didn't already see from a much better Auburn and a much better Alabama defensive line. Bama was great this year, clearly the best team in college football, but their D-line, I don't think was to the level. Barmore was amazing. Right. But as a whole, the suckers you had to deal with versus the suckers you had to deal with the previous 2 years, especially at Auburn and especially at LSU when Shelvin opted out at 360 pounds. You didn't have Caleb Von Chase on you coming around the edge. The stuff they dealt with the past few years. Remember, Mississippi State had a couple first rounders on the defensive front just 2 years ago. Yep. So the stuff they had to deal with, they weren't dealing with that this year because it was a little bit of a down year in the SEC on the defensive fronts. Yep. And this group was just A, healthy, and B, experienced, and C, highly, highly motivated. It was year 2 under the new O-line coach too. So the nomenclature, I know for a fact that when Henson was calling his stuff early in 2019, they were thinking about some Turner stuff. I mean, it's just part of it. There was a transition piece in there in the spring and in fall camp where he had to coach them through some of that stuff early in 2019 because the call was just like learning a brand new language. You're going to go Rosetta Stone on that thing and try to get caught up real fast. It's hard to do on the fly. And they don't give them all kinds of time together. You try to prepare, but it took another year. It took a little longer. But, man, it really gelled this year. It was a fun group to watch. And now we're right back into it. Now, the good thing is Henson's back for year 3. The guys he's recruiting at a higher level at next cut of athlete on the offensive front. There's no question about that. Now it's just about trying to find that right 5, fit them together. What's the right order for them? You know, you have a Matthews on the roster. That's usually a pretty good start. I mean, the other 3 guys, 2 of them played in the NFL, and those dudes played a ton of football at Texas A&M. You got Layden Robinson, who showed the flash at South Carolina where he was dominant. Kenyon Green's probably sliding out to left tackle. You got to find 2 more. It won't be easy. They might have some growing pains along the way, but they do have some stuff going for them, especially consistency, that same voice, Henson back for a 3rd year. They're in this system. That injured group with a first-year O-line coach 2 years ago, they had going against them. I don't think this group, whoever that 5 is, and try to find 5, 6, 7 guys competing in there, they're going to have some extra stuff going for them, and they're very, very talented group.
Yeah, I thought you were asking me how many starts this upcoming group has, and it would be what?
Well, yeah,
just Kenyon
23.
Green, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. So because Layden Robinson did not start the game against South Carolina. He came on in the second half.
Okay. And
so, yeah, you nailed it.
But say that number one more time for last year's team.
Last year's team, by the time the Orange Bowl was over, they exited with 157 starts in their offensive line, which I've never heard of. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Yeah.
And so, but that will be a unit to watch next year, how they replace those guys.
Yeah.
Last thing, Gabe, on the defensive side, how important is it to get, at least so far, it looks like get Mike Elko back for another cycle, another year?
Yes.
I know Bobby Brown is leaving, but a couple others are coming back, and they've recruited a lot of good defensive players. So what are you looking for on the defensive side going into next year?
Well, they did. It's hard to lose Bobby Brown. What an impressive number that Bobby Brown, where you get doubled all the time, and usually you're asked to be a space eater, clean up the holes for the linebackers, and take up double teams. And a lot of times that guy doesn't also make plays. He could have a heck of a year. He can be an All-American and not really put up wow stats. Bobby Brown got to the quarterback in 5 consecutive games in the SEC. You don't see that very often from an interior, zero nose, one technique, like nose tackle type of guy. You just don't see those kind of numbers from that guy. In fact, you got to go back to Vaughn. Last time somebody's had a streak like this, Myles Garrett never did it. He didn't have 5 straight conference games where he got to the quarterback. And he didn't have 6 straight games in general where he got to the quarterback. Bobby Brown did that. Now, down to down, you'd love to see him come back and be dominant down to down. He can turn it on, though, man. And in big moments, he really did that. Buddy Johnson, like I said, heart and soul player. He was incredible. You may look up and you say, okay, Arkansas had 2 guys with well over 100 tackles, Bumper Pool with his 120 tackle year, and Nick Bolton. But those guys were on the field for 80, 90, 100 snaps sometimes. You got to think about how many 3 and outs A&M's getting. So I think Buddy Johnson's 86 tackles, what it was, and 8.5 tackles for loss and 4 sacks, factor that into how many snaps he actually played. It was an incredible season. So point being, you lose those 2 guys. Those are tough losses right in the middle of the number 2 run defense in college football. At the same time, though, I believe A&M will take a leap. I think A&M takes a leap this year. They were number 9, like I said, in total defense. You lose those 2 guys, but it's conceivable, Mike Elko, year 4, that A&M challenges for the number 1 defense in all of college football. We talked about earlier, you're not facing – I think Matt Corral is probably on paper number 1 quarterback in the SEC, JT Daniels maybe, but of the quarterbacks that A&M faces, probably put Matt Corral first, and he threw 6 picks against Arkansas and 5 against LSU. He's just as likely to throw it to you as he is to his own guy, and he doesn't have Elijah Moore anymore. Now, Kiffin's going to figure it out. He'll throw for 1,000,000 yards, but come on. This isn't Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, and Sam Howell you're facing next year. You return 9 of 11 starters. You're building so much more depth. You get a super senior back at all 3 levels of your defense. So if you lose Bobby, you get Peavy back. I'll tell you, different dudes. One's a 3 tech, But McKinley Jackson then rolls in there and starts at the nose. So, and then you get Aaron Hansford back. So you don't, it's like a chessboard. You don't want to lose both your bishops. Now you lose one, give up another, slide your rook in there, but you don't want to lose both your bishops. Well, Aaron Hansford came back. That was huge. You lose Buddy. That's too bad. You'd love to get him back for a super senior year, but Hansford's been playing football. He was in the same signing class as Nick Starkel. I mean, think about that for a second. Nick Starkel's been playing football for 13 years, college football, right? 13 or 18 years. He's been playing college football. Aaron Hansford was in the same signing class. You got to think about that. So he's been playing a ton, back for his 6th season. Okay, let's be real. And then in the back end, you get Miles Jones back, who made a huge leap as a senior. You get him back for another senior year. So I think there's a lot. Andre White, I think he can plug in and fill in the Buddy spot. Is he a Mike? Maybe not. Maybe he's more that will linebacker. But they play 2 of them. I think he's really good. Chris Russell going to work in there some too. You got a young guy in Edgerrin Cooper, a young guy in Antonio Doyle. What they're building on the back end of that defense too. Antonio Johnson's a name to watch. Damani got his knee cleaned up. Richardson, so hopefully he's back 100% healthy. I thought we saw growth in Leon O'Neal. He's going to have to come back and be even more consistent. Saw growth in him, though, an improved player there. And then Jalen Jones, I think he's got a chance to be special. He showed the flashes of that in year 1 as a freshman this year. I think they improve on it. Mississippi State 2 years ago, I referenced them earlier. Well, 2018, they were the number 1 defense in college football, and they had 3 first-round picks. I think A&M could kind of make that ascension and become, I don't know, we'll see who all is back. We'll see how it looks like. I'm not ready to go ahead and make 21 predictions yet, but it's conceivable to think A&M builds on its number 9 ranking in total defense and becomes one of, if not the best defense in the country next year under Elko.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. It sounds like you're very high on the Aggies prospects in 2021.
I am. Here's the deal. You want to be relevant. And let me ask you a question. Up until the Cotton Bowl, when OU dominated a Florida team that didn't want to be there and had half their team opt out, as the calendar rolled to November and then in this year, because it was so crazy, and December was basically a typical November, was OU relevant? I mean, no. Now it's you're either a playoff candidate or you're irrelevant. I hate to say it. I hope it goes to 8. That way more teams are relevant. I love the talk. I'd like to branch it out so more teams are relevant. But OU and Georgia were not relevant this year. You know why? Because they had their second loss and they were not in the college football playoff mix as the calendar rolled down the stretch. Right. I believe Texas A&M this year, I think they're going to have a quarterback. I like Haynes King, frankly. I think they're going to have a quarterback. They got some questions. Everybody does. It's college football. You always got to replace people. But I believe down the stretch 21, we're talking about A&M as a relevant football team. Am I predicting right now in January the Aggies will make the playoffs? Not yet. There's a lot of things you got to see. But I believe Jimbo's building this thing to where in 21, just like this year, the Aggies are going to be right in the mix, being talked about, and have a chance to play their way in. And then moving forward off of that, eventually they're going to get in. The Aggies are, I think they're here to stay. They're not going anywhere, but up moving forward here under Jimbo.
Yeah. All right, Gabe. Thank you very much. What's your Twitter and where can people get access to you online?
At Gabe Bock on Twitter. You can go to TexAgs.com. You got the radio show where you podcast it. You can go to iTunes, Spotify, however you like to take podcasts, do that. All of our podcasts are on there, but you can go to TexAgs.com as well. You can always subscribe if you never have, if you're an Aggie fan with recruiting and everything that's going on. It's a good time to do that. We have a TexAgs.com/subscribe URL. You can go on there and subscribe for $1. $1 for a week if you've not subscribed before.
All right, Gabe. Sounds good. Everybody, that's Gabe Bock, radio host and writer at TexAgs.com. Thank you very much, Gabe. Hope you enjoyed
Clary's Corner. That was great. Good luck to you.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for watching that episode of Clary's Corner. I hope you enjoyed it very much. If you did, I would humbly ask you to become a force multiplier. Share the link with friends and family, and so they can enjoy it as well. Go to my website, heathclary.com, to learn more about me and my great book about Texas A&M baseball. And also subscribe to my YouTube page so that you're made aware every time I release a new episode. Thank you again, and God bless.